Good evening. I like your mustache. It's so finely maintained. It's very narcos, very sicario.
Narcos. So,
Oh, parang ganda eh. Hindi, tsaka you know what? Ako, I could never grow that well. Yung may ganito. It's I don't know, man. Hindi even yung tubo sa akin eh. Pati may you can grow a beard. Can you grow it here? Parang itong sideburn.
hindi nabubuo eh. Hindi nabubuo.
All my male relatives on the Hizon side have that, but I got it from the Enriquez na medyo kami kaya. Yung Enriquez kasi namin actually binigay na pangalan yan eh. But when I look at pictures of my grandfather was Chinese on my dad's side.
Wow, may lahi ka palang Chinese, ha?
Very much so. So I think I'm 1/4 Chinese. Pag makikita yung picture ng lolo ko, dun ko nakuha yung genetic hair ko dito. So wala. Diba? But if you look at my uncles, para sila mga hison, para sila mga usa, may mga dito, puno ng hair sa likod. I admire their facial hair. I really yan ang frustration ko yun.
Kumusta? How's everything?
It's been a week, huh? It's been a crazy week.
Mm-hmm.
But first off, obviously we have a topic that we're going to talk about. We have a topic on everyone's mind. Pero gusto ko munang bigyan ng parangal ang ating kaibigan.
Yes.
Na nasa Las Vegas ngayon, di ba? So our good friend, Lechon diva, Dedet de la Fuente, has just opened her restaurant in Las Vegas, and not just in any little out of the way hotel in Las Vegas. It's the newest, grandest, flashiest, biggest new hotel in Vegas, Resorts World Manila. Holy crap, man! It's ridiculous. Diba?
Resorts World Las Vegas. Yes.
Take a few minutes to tell our listeners, our viewers, paano tayo tumaba? Bakit tayo tumaba? Dahil kay
Dedet, di ba?
Oo.
Kasi in-invite natin yan sa Ultimate Taste Test, di ba? Nung natututo siya mag-lechon. And bago siya sumabak sa Ultimate Taste Test, ang dami niyang lechon na ginagawa.
Yeah.
And tayo yung parang tinatawag niyang happy gang, no?
You know what you call her? She called us guinea pigs.
Guinea pigs nga. Guinea pigs. Literally. Wow, that has been 10 years, 10 years from that time.
More. You know when she started? It was 2009. 2009.
Yeah.
Yes. Kasi naalala ko yun, I know this is it's a pretty sad memory, but nung 2010, umuwi ako nagpasko ako sa Canada kasama ang kapatid ko si Joey. On the day I was supposed to bring my pasalubong to the 3 girls, di ba? Pagpunta ko sa Magallanes, hahatid ko yung mga Twinkies nila, kung ano-ano. They were in the hospital because they had to take her eldest girl, to the hospital. Tapos wala na, hindi na. Si Lauren, hindi na nag-survive si Lauren. So, but I remember that. So it's been 12 years. 12 years. And in that span of time, she became one of the most popular home cooks, caterers, and frequent guests. But, alam mo, can you name any other Filipino chef that has been exposed so much in all of the best US shows with all the best chefs other than Dedet? Wala eh. In the past dozen years.
Baka siguro si Gaita.
Not with Bourdain. Not with Adam Richman.
Si Bourdain, si Market
No,
Manila.
I don't think. I don't think Bourdain. Never. Gaita came close, but only Dedet. Cloud came close, probably Cloud Tayag.
Cloud
si Dedet talaga.
Cloud.
Dedet was a guest of she asked Martha Stewart, and Martha Stewart came back for seconds for her lechon. Adam Richman, we shot the whole segment in Dedet's place, right? Yes. Anthony Bourdain, I remember that the last year of Anthony Bourdain here, they had with KFC to, meron silang presentation, no? So that was what was that, Street Eats Manila or something like that. And I remember
World
Street Food Festival. And Dedet was so proud of this. after the short interview, which was covered by all the networks, including ABS-CBN, bumulong si Bourdain. Can I take home the rest of the lechon?
Yun.
It was really that. And again, it's only her that's been able to do that. And I guess that the kind of exposure, that kind of validation of lechon, if you connect the dots, there's a direct line from that to all the way to opening in Las Vegas.
Yes.
And nakita mo yung picture niya kahapon? Sinong pumipila sa lechon niya? Evander Holyfield. Parang ang galing. So, and there was a line. There was literally a line going towards, and it's called Pepita's Kitchen, Filipino Lechon. I can't think of any other high-profile restaurant in Las Vegas that so proudly states Filipino Lechon or Filipino food rather than Dedet. So it's really an accomplishment, and we wish you well. And we're looking forward to seeing you back here so we can congratulate you. Ang galing. Ako, I still can't get
Ang
over
galing.
it.
Sabi nga nung iba, that's Filipino food on the strip eh.
Yeah.
So, and nung na-interview siya during the morning show, there were 40 stalls. Tapos yung interview niya lang yung pinakita, no? Kilig na
Of
kilig.
I know, man. Alam mo si Dedet, sikreto lang, magaling talaga sa payola yan eh. So, nagabot na yan. Nagabot ng lechon.
Nagamot na.
But what if you were there, if you were a jaded food journalist, then you see all of this food. I mean, no offense to any great cuisine of the world, but there is a certain magic to roast pig. And an even greater magic when you look at the crackling, yung napakalutong na balat ng lechon natin. Where else can you get that? Where else? You cannot get that really anywhere else. That's ridiculous, right?
Yes.
So congrats, Dedet. And
Congrats.
please watch us later and leave a nice comment. Or give us a 5-star rating or something, whatever, that will help the podcast as well. Yeah, but we'd like to say it, Anton, we're so proud of you, Dedet. Pinagyayabang ka namin. Huwag ka maging mayabang. At saka, she'll never get mayabang. But I asked her this, Dedet, hindi, nag-chat kami ng isang araw bago siya magbukas kasi ninervyos, puyat. Sabi ko, Dedet, for the first time, I'm going to say this. Kasi sinabi ko, Dedet, I'm really proud of you. Pero sabi ko, huwag mo pagkalat yan. I will deny I ever said that. Delete this message. Yeah, but I'm saying it to the world, man. So, Dedet, we're so proud of you.
So,
wow, amazing.
Yes, ako naman may kwento ko dyan, last kwento. Kasi nga, we saw Dedet's career, no, from that time na Ultimate Taste Test until now. And alam natin, she was trying actually to open a stall or open a restaurant, but for one reason or another, hindi natutuloy. Yung pala, syempre, ang diva needs to open in Las Vegas, di ba? Of course. Yung pala yung destiny niya.
And then, just to everyone watching, Resorts World is Resorts World. Kanina, si Chef Godfrey La Fortesa, executive chef ng Resorts World Manila, actually was posting about Resorts World sa Las Vegas. So it's the newest member of Resorts World. And Chef Godfrey, hi Gods, kung nanonood ka dito, one of the best chefs in the Philippines as well. Yes. And when you saw the list of performers who will be performing at Resorts World Las Vegas, number 1 is Celine Dion, right? Number 2 is Carrie Underwood, American Idol. Number 3 is Katy Perry. So I said to Dedet, putya talagang diva ka kasi nakasama mo sa Resorts World, puro diva eh. Dapat number 4 sa Billboard, Lechon Diva. Oh my God. It's so big time, man. It's so big time. Yes. At saka alam natin, napakaraming Filipino ngayon sa Las Vegas because it's one of those areas that's really deeply, heavily populated by Filipinos. So tuwan-tuwa sila. Pati I'm sure you know Jeng De Rosario, Mr. Food in the Bag.
Of course, yes.
Jeng is embarking on his career as a nurse, and he's moved from Arizona to California. He's now based in Las Vegas. Days before, he was so excited. Spanks! Anong menu ni Dedet? Sabi ko, pare, simple lang. Truffle rice at saka lechon. And that's all you need to know. God, congratulations on that. And yes.
Congrats. And we'll like to greet lang yung may nagko-congratulate rin sila Marinerong Cusinero, of course.
Yes,
Edwin.
yes. Wow, Marinero is now in Fort Lauderdale in Florida. So hi.
And then Will Mahusay, of course. Congratulations.
Oo.
Dedet. Galing.
I'm boondoggled. But
Sa piling
yeah,
na
sana
kilig
kung
pa
gusto
nila.
mo kami padala ng tickets sa Las Vegas, do so.
Oo.
But it's so hard to travel now. It's still so hard.
Yun nga ang gusto kong sabihin eh. Imagine, they had to plan this during the lockdown, during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And natuloy, di ba? Natuloy, she's going there in Las Vegas for the opening. Galing! Everything
Tsaka
went,
mahirap. Kwento ko lang gaano kahirap magbiyahe. So kahit pwede tayo magbiyahe, parang ayoko pa magbiyahe kasi I'll just get irritated. You know the great Filipino food photographer, the dean of Filipino food photographers, Mark Floro, the great, the legendary. He's now in
yeah.
San Francisco. Tapos he wrote a long post on Facebook about his experience every step of the way, from immigration to boarding to what kind of food was served. And what struck me most is the fact that for the 12-hour flight from NAIA to SFO, they were required by Philippine Airlines not only to wear the mask, except when eating, but also the face shield. The face shield for
Pati
12
face shield,
hours!
yeah.
For 12 hours! Tapos yung kinikwento ni Mr. Mark Floro, naduduling siya kasi ang luho pala niya, pare, Korean novela. So, so he had his iPad fully charged, his professional iPad for photography also. He was all set, but yun nga, sumakit lang ulo niya kasi naduduling siya with the face shield. Eh, di ba? You wear your glasses, oh my God, for 12 hours. I will really not survive that. Matutulog na ako. I'll take like 10 melatonins. Just sleep. We up when we get to San Francisco. But there you go. It's still very hard to travel. Although he said once he landed in San Francisco, everything was basically normal. Diba? Kasi California is open like New York. Eh. So hindi na sila nagmamask masyado. And you know, Mark's still very careful kasi sabi niya, when I was having dinner with my sister and my brother, I was still wearing my mask at the dinner table. So you just have to be very careful. But good to say that although they're supposed to take a 3-day quarantine upon entering the US, pwede sa bahay. Huwag ka lang muna lumabas. Yeah. So house arrest parang tayo. But there, that's what's been happening. And well, obviously, the past 3 days have been quite a whirlwind here in the Philippines. There's so much has been happening. And how did you find out about let's start with Thursday morning. Paano mo nalaman yung balita tungkol kay President Aquino?
Social media. Siyempre, ang bilis na kaagad umano niyan eh. Pero si Ray siyang unang sabi niya, yan, may balitang ganyan. Ikaw, paano mo naalaman? Early morning,
I have a
7
bunch of
o'clock eh. Parang ganyan, 7 o'clock
6, kasi 6:30 medyo kumalat ng balita, although there was no official word yet.
6:30,
but
yes.
there were already media in Capital Medical Center, and one of the first things I read that morning when I was actually woken up by my friend, one of my best friends. Kailan mo si Dr. Palugod, si Dr. Honon, who's now based in LA. And he called me. So sabi ko, si Honon has got finish a major procedure, for guess what? A kidney transplant. So I thought something had happened to him. And a kidney transplant is exactly what President Noynoy was in line for. He was just waiting for a kidney, right? And I thought, before I knew anything, tumawag siya, kala ko emergency. So 6:30 in the morning, before 7, I'm a late sleeper. I wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning. And hindi ko nasagot kasi it's too late already. But when I checked my phone, ito na, may mga rumors na doon. President PNoy has been rushed to the hospital. Ganon. Then I think an hour, 30 minutes later, we found out the news was confirmed already. And ang daming unang balita. But yeah, it was very shocking. It was a very rude way to wake up, right? And pero ganun din eh. Pati nung namatay mami niya nung August 1, 2009. It was also early in the morning. So that's what I remember that exactly. The night before, nasa Araneta Coliseum I was watching, guess what? A very retro baby boomer concert, America. A horse with no name. Been to the desert on a horse. So we had a lot of fun, watching America with the boomers. And the next morning, that was the news that woke me up. So that's what happens, right? And medyo ngarag ako. Ngarag talaga ako nung araw na yun. Ngarag na ngarag ako. And I couldn't function nung Thursday kasi although, I took my meetings and everything, but after every meeting, you would just, what the hell happened? Because no one knew he was sick. They kept it very, very quiet, right?
Yes.
So there were a couple of pictures that leaked when he would attend events. And obviously, he was dangerously thin. If you remember what Steve Jobs looked like towards the end of his days, when in particular when he was launching the iPod, right? He looked really frail and thin, and that's how PNoy looks. So I was like, oh, no, parang. But he was never a chubby guy. But maybe sabi ko, it was just dieting. But there were very few pictures. Then to find out that the cause of death was acute renal failure, complicated by all of these, but it almost became systemic in this regard. And wow, so he was undergoing dialysis already, and but they just kept it secret. And I have to commend the family and the media for respecting his wishes. And he's always been a very, very private person, not to make a whole dramatic story out of his ailment, which eventually claimed his life, diba?
Yes.
Tapos yung nangyari pala doon, nabasa ba yun yung the night before, Wednesday night?
Sige,
sa Times Street siya. Then usually, kasi may karamdaman na siya so meron siyang buzzer sa kwarto niya. And then may aide siya sa labas who would wait, being a former president, I think his bodyguard, and his long-time family driver, actually parang tawag niya brother, who has been his driver since he was grade 5.
Wow.
Since he was 10 years old, basically. So he died at 61. So yung driver niya, yung parang kapatid niya na, they were together for half a century, for 50 years. And there was an interview of the driver, of his longtime driver, family driver. And he said that night, nung Wednesday night, he was still okay. Nakapag-request pa siya ng, ito yung kakainin ko sa umaga. Apparently he loved bacon, like Richie Zamora. So, yun ang usual breakfast niya, bacon na I guess, Pinoy, para so sinangag, no? Bacon silog yun. He requested that, then he retired to his room, and nung huli siya nakita, nung gabi, naupo siya sa sa lazy boy chair. And they closed the door, then everyone, the household retired for the night. The next morning, pumasok yung katulong to wake him up. Sir, ready na po yung breakfast. He was still in the lazy boy chair. So that's around 6 in the morning. And they obviously rushed him to the hospital. They tried to revive him, but he had passed peacefully during the night. So yun na yung kumalat na balita. So there's no truth to the rumor that he had ang dami kasi, alam mo dito,
maraming fake news.
Maraming fake news. So let's not talk about that. So the reason was it was really a kidney failure. His kidney just gave out, and we know from our experience, for example, si Eric, si Eric Biahilo, that's how he passed away, di ba?
Yes.
Yeah, so mahirap yan. So just take care of your health. And I think, he was a very stressed out guy because he kept a lot of things inside of him. Di ba? He was never the type that would show his emotions. And sometimes that's really difficult. And the past, I'm very sad to say that the past 5 years, since 2016, he's been abused and vilified by so many people, by the DDS. Let me just say that. For no apparent reason. Why? I mean, you're not in power anymore. Here, I'm just keeping quiet. I served the country for my term for 6 years, and prior to that, my 9 years in Congress, my time in the Senate. And I'm just keeping quiet. I'm retired, which is what you leave with grace. You leave quietly, right? You don't meddle in affairs anymore of the state unless you're asked to. But he was quiet. He was actually even being investigated. Then he was cleared. Then he just lived his life. And but for some reason, for whatever political agenda the current dispensation has, gusto nilang i-demonize si PNoy, and that was really hurt. And he was not the type to say things against that, because he also said in another interview that you know what, this happened right after his dad was assassinated, August 21, 1983. ito, direct quote, sabi niya, nakita ko yung nanay ko umiiyak, yung mga kapatid kong puro babae umiiyak. Kung umiyak na rin ako, di lahat kami umiiyak na. So, I think that created the wall. He became very stoic, right? He just refused to show his emotions. And that's what we call also, it's not dissimilar to the royal family. Kung napanood mo yung The Queen, di ba? Sila Queen Elizabeth, they never show their emotions in public.
Mhm.
You watch it, right? But apparently that's how they felt. Oh, very old school. I think that was their training, not just as a landed clan, but also as a political family. We don't show our emotions in public, except Chris, of course. But Chris is Chris. She's another entity altogether.
Another discussion, yeah.
Yeah, that's another 3 topics. But there you go. So he kept a lot of this inside him, and I'm really certain that contributed to the stress, that contributed to the breakdown of his body, and eventually him being a very private person, he just didn't let it out, because we never heard a peep from him after July 1, 2016. Wala tayong narinig, di ba? So, well, rest in peace, President Aquino. And I'm just glad that a lot of people now have shown, and there's been an outpouring of respect. Kasi let's face it, ako, dilawan ako. Ito yung nakalagay sa pangalan ko, dilawan ako. I've been dilawan all my life. I've never hit it. I've been proud of it. Even at times na inaaway ako ng DDS. That's me.
Hanggang ngayon ba? Hanggang ngayon? Hanggang
Alam mo,
ngayon?
hindi ka na maaway ng DDS ngayon kasi compartmentalized na yung Facebook. Di ba? I don't see them. They don't see me. One of my best friends before all this was Dr. Lorraine Bodoy. And Dr. Bodoy, Lorraine has been the most controversial lightning rod for President Duterte. But Lorraine and I were close. We would chat like this. But we went our separate ways. But when you do so, sometimes you just can't stand the thought of you ruining your friendship directly. So I think by mutual consent, we decided to block each other para hindi kami mag-away. So after all this, if Lorraine and I meet again after all of these political things are finished, hey, let's be friends. Pero ngayon, hindi talaga pwede kasi we're just on totally opposite sides, not only of the political spectrum, but even of the moral spectrum as well. So that's where we are. And I think that's what happened with so many of our friends on Facebook also. Di ba? Yung isa, yung favorite namin ni Peter So, si Architect, kilala mo yan, hindi ko na sabihin yung pangalan.
Si Architect.
I blocked him also because, dude, I don't want to fight with you. I still respect you as a friend. May pinagsamahan tayo. But if we're gonna engage each other in social media, we're just gonna fight, call each other names, and at the end of the day, baka punta ka sa bahay, sapakan pa kita. Di ba? Because you can't not promise yourself not to be violent when someone just offends you so much. And it was already going there. Yung napaka-offensive na ng mga sinasabi, wala nang sense talaga. So, ayoko naman yung ganun. Even yung, di ba may chat tayo with Architect, I left the chat.
Yes.
Because I don't wanna listen, I don't wanna read but ganun yung nangyari. That's just a microcosm of what's happened. So, we don't know what the other side is saying. They know what that we're saying because we're being covered by the media right now. And the only way we can communicate with each other essentially is via the comment section of Facebook. Yun na lang.
Yes.
Yeah. But what am I saying? It's a very, very divided country. I'm not sure who's got the majority or who's got I have no idea.
Lalo na
ngayon. But what I can say is, if you're quiet, if you say you're being apolitical, if you're sitting on the fence, I don't think you should, right? If you really are concerned, ikaw parang, let's admit it, last week when we were talking about, parang ikaw, you were never the most political person. That was me.
Yeah.
But ngayon medyo last week I was rather moved by what you were saying, because you were saying that I have to do this, and we were talking about the COMELEC registration, all of these things, because you have to do it for your kids.
Yes. Oh. And now's
Wala
the
naman
time.
iba eh. Oo, di
Now's the
ba?
time to do it. Oh. Now's the time to do it. And I think what really um what was really important for me was the China issue, di ba? Binibenta
Mm.
tayo sa China. So that was really like,
Yeah. I don't think, and I will not ask you out of respect, because we're not all the same. I will not ask you to be very vocal, but it might happen. It may not happen. But I'm just very happy that you're now saying out loud what a lot of people should be saying out loud. And
yeah.
especially for the people that
Because
I was
it's a process naman eh. It's a
yeah.
process.
Basta wag
And
parang
we have a
ano,
few months. Oo.
wag parang Philadelphia 76ers the process. For
Hindi
sorry
naman.
for all of you following basketball, punyeta, Ben Simmons, I feel so bad. Did you see that guy? Philadelphia 76ers kasi by now dapat may kampiyonato na sila. May sing-sing na sila sa NBA because they
Oo.
had the process. But the process started to break down almost immediately. Puro injured. And then I feel so sad for the guy, the fiasco of Ben Simmons, an all-star who just nagkaroon siya ng mental block. He became afraid to shoot during games. And you could see it. He's a young guy. He's 24. I hope he gets over it. But at the same time, sports being sports, you like to heckle people. Like, you have a fan base. I just, hope and pray that Ben Simmons gets his groove back because he's still very young. He's 24. He's been an all-star twice. He's got a great future ahead of him. All he needs to do is get that out of his head. Don't be afraid to miss a shot. Because parang ganun na nangyari, di ba? Ikaw, you play basketball with your kids. The most fun part of basketball is shooting the ball. That's it,
Oo.
right?
Siyempre.
Defense is essential, but the most fun part is making a shot, right? In your face. Ganun, di ba? Pag may
Taking
mga,
the shot. Yeah.
See? That's the best part. But yeah, sorry for the digression. Pero yun, we face a challenge now. So what's gonna happen in the next exactly 11 months to go before the elections? Actually, less. Kasi yung elections natin, May 13.
Less. Oh,
May
less.
13. So less than 11 months to go before the elections because it's going to be July next week. But but today, we would like to dedicate this to honor the memory of President PNoy. And I want to say this. I don't want to desecrate a day to honor a good president, an excellent Filipino, a family man, by talking trash to continue and extend our sports analogy about the other side. Sana nga, kasi tayo, isa rin naman hope natin, sana magkaisa tayo ulit, di ba? It's really very hard for me to see this happening because this happened very recently. Di ba? Up until a decade ago, we were just one happy, united nation that was overtaking China as the fastest growing economic power in Asia. We were getting all of this fantastic credit rating upgrades from Moody and everything. We were that. We were a tiger. And the most, and I think that what signifies it most is, sabi ni PNoy during his State of the Nation address in 2012, napakasarap talaga maging Pilipino sa panahon ngayon. Taas noo. Taas noo sa buong mundo. Hindi tayo yuyuko sa harap ng kahit sinong dayuhan. And where are we now? How do we fix this? So,
yeah. So,
sana
sana nga. But before we go there, let's talk about the story, your story. The story.
Naalala mo yung kwento ko, Anton, na may kasalanan din ako. Hindi na kasalanan. May contribution ako kung bakit naging presidente si Rodrigo Duterte.
Oo. Sige, kwento mo.
I've told this before. The very first, validated to the very first Facebook page to call for Rodrigo, and this was back in, holy cow, This was back in 2012, right? Because we were already looking around there. And back then, in 2012 or 2013 as it was, we were looking at Davao as the shining light in the Philippines. And we used to go there a lot. Remember, we went there for the Kadayawan? Magkasama tayo na, di ba?
Yes.
And hinanap ko pa si Digong nun.
Oh,
Nasa
nandun si
Marco Polo
Digong
tayo.
nun. Oh, nandun
tapos
si Digong nun.
I stalked him at the lobby of Marco Polo because my friends there were saying, no, he goes here halos every hapon. Mag-high hello siya sa mga negosyante ng Davao dito, mga businessmen. So I stalked him. I was at the lobby of Marco Polo, the coffee shop. Sure enough, around 4 o'clock, he walks in. Then I walk to him. Sir, Mr. Mayor, papicture tayo. So, and then, he was very nice, very cordial, very respectful, very soft-spoken. And I said, wow, I like this guy. Then he would read things about Davao, about it was the safest city in the Philippines, the cleanest city in the Philippines. I said, well, here you go. Maybe out of sheer curiosity, let's see and take the temperature of the people. So, nangyari, gumawa ko ng President, ng Mayor Rodrigo Duterte for President page. And you know what I called it? I was so proud of the name. Alam mo yung sikat na shades na kasabay ng Oakley?
Ray-Ban?
No, kasabay ng Oakley. The Rudy Project.
Yes,
So gumawa akong page. It's still there, guys. If we go to Facebook right now, you can search The Rudy Project. That was the first Roddy Duterte for President page. Up to now, although now, iniwan ko na siya gano'n. Parang may mga message pa rin ako. Marami nagpo-post sa page. I'm still the admin of the page. It's so funny. It's ridiculous. So, nagdilang anghel ako. Dilanghel ka. But it wasn't the first time nagdilang anghel ako. Kasi ito yung kita na yung kwento. We can show this. This was August. Can we move up? Yan. August 10, 2009. This was a week after President Cory Aquino had passed away. But she passed away August 1 or August 2. So, yeah, we can move up. Let's move up. Noynoy Aquino inherited neither his father's charisma nor his mother's quiet charm. A lot of people are saying that the country is not Camelot and that we should take the bright, shining period that we had for Ninoy and Cory as it is, as a once-in-a-lifetime Filipino miracle. But the one politician on the horizon that has nothing but absolute decency, the antithesis of the current president, is Noynoy Aquino. Let's backtrack, Let's backtrack. Anton, do you remember what the political climate was back in 2009? August. Anong natatanda mo sa era na yun with Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo?
Oo, Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo yan di ba? Ang gulo rin yan. Ang daming corruption, di ba? Ang daming corruption issue during that time.
Di ba yung nauso pa nun that several of her cabinet secretaries would be called for Senate investigations and they would show up all in wheelchairs. Remember? Sunod-sunod yun. Every time that papatawag sila, biglang nagkakasakit. Oh, nasan siya? Oh, biglang na-rush sa St. Luke's. Nasa medical city. Tapos pagdabadan sa Senate, bakong matamlay na. Di na ako kasalita. It happened again. So there were a lot of controversies. There was a lot of sunod-sunod yun.
May nagpakamatay na general pa, di ba?
Yeah. And it was a crazy, but people forget so easily. Lalo tayong Filipino, so easily. If you ask 10 Pinoys now, our age, what they remember, then they probably will have a hard time. But that was a time that she was perceived to be stuffing the Supreme Court with her appointees. Everyone was aghast over that deal they made with China for the Z broadband ba yun or something. And everyone was afraid that she was taking the steps to have a constitutional convention, to change the constitution, to extend her stay in power. That was it. But remember, by 2009, she'd been in power for 8 years already. Why? Because ERAP was removed from office in 2001.
Matagal na.
Yes. Then she ran for election in 2004. She essentially spent 9 years, almost a decade in power. And there was a perception, And there were moves, no? That sasabihin, oh, mag-parliamentary system na tayo para maging prime minister. Ganun yun. Kung di nyo po naalala, i-google nyo. Because that's how we felt. That's why the Filipino people then, as a whole, before the shitstorm that social media gave us, because back then, 2008, 2009, batang-bata pa yung Facebook. It was only 3 years old in the Philippines. It wasn't the power it was now that could shape minds and divide the country. But back then, we relied on good old TV. We relied on traditional radio. And we relied on this disappearing medium called print. So that was how politics and our mindsets were shaped. And all of us then felt a bit helpless, to be completely honest. And I remember this because I was never away from the fight. And back then, I even used my blog. Remember Manila Boy, my own blog?
Manila Boy.
Manila Boy. It was an activist blog, no? Paano? Idol ko si Max Sullivan. Idol ko yung mga dati sa Philippine Star. Di ba? Idol ko si Louis Beltran. Idol ko si Teddy Benigno. These old school journalists who never were afraid to zip their mouths for political favors. But that's what it was like. So I hope people remember that. Ang nangyari, we knew Cory Aquino had cancer. She revealed it to the public a year before, in 2008. Over the course of 1 year, her health deteriorated, and eventually she passed away the first days of August 2009. And not too long after, parang people were looking at it. So ano na? And it became something that galvanized us. Kung naalala mo yung libing ni Cory, parang it was almost mystical. There was a rebirth na parang, wow, we took our democracy for granted. Diba? This lady who fought for us, and she didn't have to, from the day her husband died in 1983 to the day she assumed office in February 25, 1986, all the way to the end of her term in 2002. She fought for us, and then she quietly retired as well. And we all remembered, gosh, we owe this lady so much. Diba? Because what she did, and to the millennials listening, to the Gen Y and to the Gen Z, what Cory Aquino did was, in so many words, kick the fuck out of Marcos out of the country. That's what she did. Without Cory Aquino, and of course the catalyst for this was the assassination of her husband, PNoy, this housewife that Marcos loved to make fun of, wala kang alam. Yun ang talaga kay Cory. Walang alam yan. Diba? And she was the one who brought back democracy in the Philippines. But here's the problem. In 2009, we seem to be going towards the path, charting a path towards back to dictatorship or back to that kind of power that would be assumed by someone for a lengthy period of time. So what happened? We all came together. Parang nagising yung Pilipino. And nung nagising yung Pilipino, hanggang nung nalibing si Cory, nagtingin na lahat. O sino bang, tama-tama, may elections na, no? 8 months away. Anong gagawin natin? Sino susunod? So we have to fight. And for some reason, there was this guy standing in the sidelines, very quiet, very unassuming. But when people saw him, and I remember this, he would go outside the Manila Cathedral where most of Cory's wake was held. He would go out and somehow nagkaroon ng parang sa sinihan, bigla nagka-halo around him. And that's when people saw him in many ways for the first time. Then he was he gave a really good eulogy. He was very mature. He sounded good. He sounded excellent speaking in Filipino. And it was a revelation for so many people. And it's like someone had turned on the light at the very same time on that first week of August and up to Cory's burial. So yun, by August 10, ako mismo, sinasabi ko na, baka si PNoy na nga, di ba? You remember what happened after that? Nagkaroon ng drama-drama. What was, ito yung kwento nun. Ang kandidato ng Partido Liberal was Mar Rojas.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And he was all set to run for president in 2010 versus whoever President Arroyo would choose, no? And but here's the backstory here. Another history lesson. Back in 1972, right before martial law, there were two leading lights of the Liberal Party. Mar Rojas' father and Ninoy Aquino. Jerry Rojas and Ninoy Aquino. But the powers that be and the state of the political world then was people are saying no. Jerry Rojas may not be able to win against Marcos or against whoever candidate of Marcos would put up there. So it's Ninoy who was being put as a political candidate. So in other words, Jerry Rojas, right, the Rojas family who had founded the Liberal Party, had to step back and allow Ninoy to run in 1973 for the elections. Of course, that never happened because martial law was declared in September 1972, and they were both thrown in jail. History repeated itself in 2009 because Mar Rojas, who was now the Liberal Party candidate as an opposition candidate in the 2010 elections, after so much debate, so much soul searching, gave way again. So another Rojas gave way to another Aquino. The sons repeated history exactly. And it was very cinematic almost. Yun nangyari. And the momentum just get itself. Remember and eventually the candidates were there. It was Kibot Chodoro, who was placed by Gloria. Manny Villar. And then, alam mo ad ni Manny Villar? Yung lumalangoy sa basura. Naalala mo yun? Di ba? That was December 2009. And it gave him a spike sa surveys. The fourth candidate was Joseph Estrada. Spoiler alert. But I guess nandun na yan, nakapinta na yung landas ni Noy Noy, no? And to make a long story short, he won in May of 2010 by a significant margin. He got 15 million votes. And guess who was second?
Sino ba?
Erap.
Erap
Erap got 10 million votes. And Erap, I think, was just joking when he ran. Then he ran and he got 10 million votes. That's why right after he ran for Manila mayor, which he held for until Yorme took over. So that's Philippine politics in a nutshell. And so that's how PNoy, who never wanted the presidency, got it. So I hope people remember that because I talk to people, I remember all the details, but some people don't remember anymore.
No, maganda nga yan. Storytelling time tayo ngayon, Spanks, para people can...
para yung mga nakikinig, you should remember this. And let me just say this. Noy Aquino never wanted the press. He never, wala. Di ba? Sabi ko, I'm happy here. I could just relax, live my life, find a wife. Sounds familiar. Di ba? Date around, listen to music. Alam mo, one of his favorite bands was Hot Dog. Diba? So he would always be shown even when he was president already. Yun ang panahon niya, 1970s kid siya, di ba? So he would, dance around Manila. Those are his favorite songs, OPM. And the Manila sound. And it's sad that kala ko nga that's why, ang kala kong marinig kong balita kay PNoy after his presidency, na mag-aasawa na siya. So he never got around to doing that. Yeah, but going back to the presidency, he didn't want to run, but we sort of forced him to run. It was an acclamation, right? Because he was not even there sa mga campaign ng Liberal Party, but then all of a sudden he was there and he won. And we all felt that this was some sort of a divine intervention. And they always say that whenever an Aquino dies, right, we get rid of a dictator. It's happened twice. And over the past 2 days, that's what we've been hearing again. Every time an Aquino dies. But guys, let's stop killing off the Aquinos, no? And let's stop asking them to save our ass. Kasi twice na nangyari. Diba? Maybe it'll happen a third time. But after that, let them relax, let them rest. Tama na. It's too much to ask for a family. It's too much.
Wait, maganda tong sinulat mo nung papakita ko lang. Kasi about the, ano ba to? This is the about page of the Facebook group you created.
Yeah,
diba?
this is what yeah, this was the first thing I wrote
Oo.
on August 9, 2010 when I put up the Facebook page. A man of great decency, the antithesis of indecent elements in the Philippine political spectrum. We need a man of character rather than the characters in power. So Noy Aquino, who was then senator for higher office. And it never changed.
Oo nga, galing.
Yung homily kanina ni
Oo,
Bishop.
yan na-mention yan, di ba?
What was the word? The word used was decency.
Decency, oo nga.
But, people have been turning this into a bad word na parang kung sabihin mong decente ka, mayabang ka. Kung sabihin mong decente ka, hindi ka mapagkatotoo. Pag sabihin mong decente ka, minamalit mo yung ibang tao. No, decency is a core value. Right? Decency is what we're supposed to be. Decency is what the Filipino is. We're a very decent people. Right?
Yeah. Dalawa yung term na ginamit. Dignity and decency. Di ba?
Yeah. And that's exactly, so I think many Filipinos are on the same wavelength. Because yesterday, late at night, kagabi, yun yung sinulat ko. Diba? I put up later, maybe I can read it to everyone. But on my Facebook page, kasi kung makita mo yung profile picture ko, kulay yellow na mukha ko. Kasi sinabi ko, dilawan, magpakailanman. And that's who I am. So, but then again, I'll end with that. But let's continue our story. So, yun. So, ano ba yung next picture natin dyan? Sige, move up natin. Yan. So, this was me outside the Manila Cathedral. Doon yung wake ni Cory eh. Tapos there was this giant poster of her where you could write a message. On the first night after Cory Aquino passed away, there was a private, I think she was brought to Santo Domingo for one night. And then the next day, or then for the next 2 days, she was laid in state in De La Salle, sa La Salle Green Hills. And we went there. We went to La Salle Green Hills on the second night of her wake. And after that, may ano pa nun, alam mo, my memory of that time, a dozen years ago, is so clear. There was even a bit of a controversy.
What?
There was a request that, wag magalit yung mga kapwa ko Atenista, hindi pumayag yung Ateneo na dalhin si PNoy for one night sa Ateneo. That's why he was in La Salle, Anton. PNoy was never a La Salle yan, but he was in Green Hills.
Bakit? Bakit tayo ng Ateneo?
I don't know. And I wrote something about it back then. So, what the fuck? This guy was true blue.
Kaya nag-thank you kanina to the Ateneo for the church?
Yeah, but now, maybe sabihin, wala pang Jesu, wala pang church. But back then, I felt really bad because, hey, this guy is true blue from kinder prep to college. He was Ateneo. He said, but how come Ateneo did not have one night at least? That's why, nagugulat ako eh. But buti lang, half-breed ako, Lasal din ako, di ba? So, we went to Lasal and I was so giddy almost. Sabi ko, tingnan mo, buti pa yung Lasal, di ba? Hindi naman nag-aral dito si Noy, pero dito nag-wake siya. Di ba? And I remember that we went to Lasal Green Hills around 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. Ang dami-daming tao from the gate of Lasal all the way to the corridor leading to the gym. And all throughout, punong-puno na ng bulaklak. Tapos titignan namin yung bulaklak na galing kay, minamata namin yung wreath na galing kay, yung flower arrangement galing kay President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo. Sabi, tingnan mo, ang cheap talaga nito, ang liit-liit, parang siya. Ganun. And then, lumipat na nga sa Manila Cathedral, yung wake ni President Cory. And that was there for like 3 or 4 days. And it was a constant stream. Alala ko to. 24 hours, Anton. Dumadagsa yung tao sa Manila Cathedral.
Yes.
It was moving. It's really moving. And on the day that she was buried sa Manila Memorial, nandun kami. So early in the morning, we woke up with my sister, my friends here, at mga tiga Manila kong kaibigan. Umuulan nun. Umuulan. Tapos may maraming pare. Punong-puno. Nandun kami sa labas ng Manila kasi hindi lang makalabas. Nakapasok kasi puno ng mga family and friends. But it was raining. People stood in the rain for hours and hours as the mass went on. And I remember, ang pinakamabenta nun, yellow umbrella, binibenta ng mga 120 pesos. And people are, I don't know, man, people were just so nice to each other. I remember buying umbrellas for a group of seminaristas who were there because wala silang allowance, pambili ng payong. Yung ganung bagay ba? And then after the mass, we followed the hearse of President Cory hanggang sa Quirino. So naglakad kami mula Manila Cathedral and the Circle at outside Intramuros all the way to the corner of Quirino. And it was wild, man. It was like a very
that was wild. Yeah.
very sad occasion, but at the same time very happy because we felt that we had the Filipino, and this is what people said. We said we had rediscovered our soul as Filipinos. Wow. That's how we felt. Wow, we were so proud again. And we were saying, oh, this is the spirit of 86. This is us, We are willing to fight for who we are as Filipinos, our decency, our dignity, our democracy. And that lit the fire. That was the spark. And it continued. And sige, let's move to the next picture. And yun, no? So nakita na ng mga tao na, wait, maybe that's who we should, why look further? Diba? Kasi na-realize na namin nun or natin. Sabi, nung namatay si Ninoy, he was the catalyst that really made Cory step up and fought a dictator who'd been in power for 21 years. Tinibag niya. And now, history was repeating itself in 2009 to 2010 because this son who never even wanted to follow the footsteps of his dad, who was more like his mom, very reticent, very quiet, but no less firm, was catapulted into running for the presidency. And he was running there because he was running not just as a political candidate. He was running as a moral candidate. A moral candidate. Because back then, we all felt that this was a battle, again, history of good versus evil.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all true. I'm not inventing anything, but people forget. And he won. And during the time, nung 2010 to 2016, I was the first person to campaign for PNoy, but also I was his harshest critic. Nung nangyari sa Luneta, parang nagla-live blog ako. My live blog was puro, what the fuck? I couldn't believe it was happening. But it's your second month in office, this happens, and I really have no basis for this. It's a big mistake, right? People died. But then, he made up for it. You could not make up for the loss of lives, but in terms of running the country, he stepped up. And the economy was growing. It was not growing, it was booming.
It was booming, yeah.
It was booming, diba? There were so many people, so many of my friends who had migrated to the States, to Canada, to Australia. Parang maraming bumalik nun. Maraming bumalik nun. Maraming umuwi dito because, oh my God, maybe ito na yung momentum na hinahanap natin, right? But then, to be completely honest, marami rin nangyaring, maraming mangyari maganda, including the RH law, which is very controversial to this day.
RH diba? Law.
And yung RH law, it was a litmus test. It was a crucible for PNoy kasi they're a very Catholic family. Remember, kaya nagkaroon ng EDSA, si Cardinal Sin, tinawag ang flock. We should protect Enrile and Ramos, right? And it was Cardinal Sin to a very large extent who really ensured that the presidency of Cory Aquino would push through. And here goes PNoy endorsing and campaigning and eventually having the RH law passed, which goes against the teachings of the Catholic Church. Again, that's another story for another day. But that's exactly the the two sides of this president, right? He was very firm. At the same time, he was not beholden to what came before. So he was his own man in so many words. So there you go. And yeah, pero marami nangyari. Pero alam mo, Anton, where I think this all started. Yeah, this was the day that he gave the best sauna ever. Then there's one more slide there. Ayan, yan. Ako po, si Noynoy Aquino. Ipinagmamalaki ko sa buong mundo. Pilipino ako at maging Pilipino, maging napakasarap pala maging Pilipino sa panahong ito. So, naalala mo yun, Anton, smoker siya. Tapos during the song, ubo ng ubo. And people he was being criticized, puta, smoker eh.
Oo nga, yung ubo na ubo.
Sila Lord. Na yan. Sila yun.
Sila Lord, binibilang nila, di ba?
And so he had a lot of good songs. And naalala mo yung sona niya, palaging the language that he used. And I think to the very last was in Filipino. In beautifully written Filipino. So naiintindihan ng masa, naiintindihan ng tao. Hindi siya yung mga technocratic terms in English. So he was a very he's not a perfect president. Very imperfect in so many words. But at the same time, he was the president we needed at the time. He did the job to his best of his ability. There were massive, and I'll talk to you about that also. Napakasama ng, alam mo, one of the reasons why ang dami nagalit kay PNoy towards the end, sunod-sunod to eh. The traffic situation,
yes.
The LTO, yes. I'm sorry to say, Secretary Abaya, right, was being vilified. And people are saying, pare, sayang mo na si Abaya. And PNoy said, no, I'm very loyal.
Naalala ko yan eh. So yung mga last issues, where the LRT, di ba? Parang nagkaroon ng bulyaso dun sa LRT, the maintenance contract, etc. Remember, pumunta pa tayo dun sa Tacloban, di ba? What happened to the funds ng mga Tacloban, and then Mama Sapano happened. Yeah. So I think towards the end, there are really a lot of things happen. But you know, ito nga yung gusto kong kausapin sa'yo. On hindsight, no, on perspective on what happened now, parang, you know, that's limited to certain areas, you know, limited to certain things. But now, all the things that we're experiencing na negatively was affecting the entire country, di ba? So, I don't know. I think, so, continue mo lang yung i-close natin yung history story para lang, and then we'll bring it to the present.
For me, it started out with a bang, literally, sa Luneta. But they got over that pretty quickly. And actually, up to Hong Kong is never forgotten. Yung headline sa South China Morning Post is the smiling president dies. Yeah. It's really brutal. But I can't blame Hong Kong either because their citizens are the ones killed there. But it went south. But it was a glorious 5 years, maybe, from 2010 to 2015. And then, sunod-sunod na yun, di ba? The controversies of what you said, the LRT, all of these missteps, the controversies, the slow response to Yolanda, and then I think the trigger talaga, the one that really ruined everything was Mama Pasano. SAF 44, no? So that was really, really, really tragic. And you cannot gild the lily. Talaga nangyari yan, di ba? And I have to say this. One of the reasons why na nagkagulo talaga sa mga, kasi they were pointing fingers at each other.
Yes.
Di ba? The general, sabi, secret operation to, pero ba't alam ni Marawas, ba't alam ng PSG, ba't alam dito ganito, ba't binalik ito yung dapat hindi na nasa PSG, why was he leading or coordination? It was such a, up to now, I still don't know, but the hardest part there is nag-release yung ng mga video, yung mga terorista, di ba, showing how they were hunting down and killing the soldiers one by one. And that was on YouTube, it was on Facebook, it tore our hearts around.
Oh, grabe yun.
Oh. And I don't think that was the beginning of the end also. It also doomed the candidacy of the supposed of Mar Rojas, who was supposed to take over, because people say, sayang eh, para sa basketball yan eh, di ba? Ang ganda ng umpisa mo, you were doing so well, then you collapse.
Oo.
There was a collapse at the very end.
Yeah.
But
Tsaka like si Mar Rojas, they did the call centers, I mean,
yeah,
the call center boom during that time. That's why our economy was booming.
and Mar
So,
Rojas
towards the
is
end
called
lang, sayang
the
lang
father of
talaga.
the BPO industry, di ba? Si Mar Rojas talaga nagpasok lahat. Sayang
Yes.
eh. Sayang. And I remember back in 2012 thereabouts when I have a lot of friends in the political spectrum, and we were saying, if PNoy keeps on this clean image, walang bahid ng korupsyon, tuloy-tuloy. And remember, napatanggal niya si Corona
Mm-mm.
for real cause, not like what people did recently to Sereno, but for real cause, di ba? Hindi lang binuli talaga, may kaso talaga. And this was a court that was judged by the Senate. But in the same, after just a few years after Corona was kicked out, 3 of those Senate judges were put in jail. Enrile, Revilla, and Estrada. So, ano talaga? Walang kaibigan talaga. Totoo yun. There were no political favors to really speak of. And he cleaned it up. So there was really less corruption. I'm sure there still was. But we didn't feel it. We were not defined by the corruption. Now, towards the end, like you said, we all know the facts. It just turned around. Alam mo kailan naman yun? Pero sumama lahat.
Kailan?
Remember, after Pope Francis left, he was here.
Ay, oo nga. Yes, correct.
A week after Pope Francis left, hindi ko makakalimutan kasi siya yung unang gumamit ng nung extension ng Pawishes Airport galing sa Taft Avenue. He was the first one to use that. And maybe nararamdaman ko ngayon nung time na nagbabay na si Pope Francis, parang there was something you felt, maybe a foreboding. Shit, parang not only because the Pope was leaving, you're the only Catholic country in Asia, but we felt something, parang may mangyayaring masama. Nagkaroon ng foreboding. A week later, or less than a week later, the SAF 44 were killed. A week later. So we were at this high as a nation, at our peak, right? And it all came crashing down so quickly.
Oo nga.
Oo.
Naalala ko pa noon, nag-visit pa siya ng Tacloban, di ba?
Yeah, and it was a dramatic because he was saying mass, di ba? Outside the airport of Tacloban, umuulan pare, di ba?
Oo, then may bagyo, di ba? May
bagyo. And tayong dalawa, since we were so deeply involved with Vice Mayor Sambo, Vice Mayor Jerry, talagang nung pinapanood ko yung sa Tacloban, naiyak ako kasi grabe, no? Parang finally nabigyan ng basbas yung Tacloban. So yung ulan nung araw din sa Tacloban, nung nag-miss si El Papa Francis, was not a storm but a blessing. It was like holy water being poured in Tacloban. That's how we felt, no? Then everything went to shit a week later. I don't know. This is how life is. But so there you go. In to make a long story short, Mar Rojas ran for the presidency. But here's the thing: if Mar Rojas, the vote then was divided between the middle class vote, if you will, was divided between Mar Rojas and Grace Poe.
Oo, correct. Tumakbo pa kasi si Grace Poe noon.
Yun. So if you count the votes of Mar Rojas and Grace Poe, they would easily overtake. They would tally around 18 million, thereby overtaking the 16 million Duterte. But you don't know, people may hand out shallow. But it was very clear that the vote was divided.
Oo nga. Bakit kaya tumakbo si Grace Poe noon?
Because she was number 1 senator. She was number 1 senator in 2013 when she ran. And people started whispering to her, "Oy, kaya mo na tumakbo." But in my mind, nothing against Senator Poe, but you were MTRCB chair. That was your political experience. Then you ran a senator, also on a beautiful story of FPJ and everything. You bring all of this history and drama and cinematic levels of telenovela to Philippine politics, which we love. And Grace then was, when she ran for senator, she was like a bright shining light.
Yes.
She was my number 1 senator, di ba? Ang galing ng babaeng to But then again, ba't ka tumakbo kagad ng presidente? 3 years
diretso, di ba?
Oo. And yun. So short story short, but to his credit, then Mayor Duterte ran a brilliant campaign. Brilliant campaign talaga. Brilliant. And
Pero
after
the Makati mayor pa was running din, di ba? Paano ba nanalo si Duterte? Ano bang...
si Jojo Binay was already, parang na-echepwer na siya. Sorry to say, Remember, this is what happened. Sige, let me rewind ulit, 2010.
Oo. Yeah, para kumpletuhin natin yung history.
Mar Rojas, up until December 2009 or January 2010, was leading the surveys. Ang hindi niya alam, ang galing ng ginawa, kasi I think Mayor Binay was like the president of the Mayor's League of the Philippines or something like that. Ginapang ni Mayor Binay lahat ng LGU sa buong Pilipinas. And I noticed this because that was still in my corporate life and I had to travel all over the Philippines. Whenever I would land in an airport, ang nakikita kong vice president na campaign was not Mar Rojas. It was Binay. So in so many words, Mayor Binay ran a terrific grassroots campaign in 2010 and surprised everybody, most of all Mar Rojas, by winning the vice president, stealing it from the running mate of PNoy, who was Mar Rojas. But then again, over the course of his term, ang daming nangyaring controversy and everything. So he tried to run for president, but it was a bit too late for him already. There was too much dirt, and that's how politics. There was too much dirt being thrown to Jojo Binay by the time, and even during the debates nung 2016, naalala ko yun. May mga debate pa sila. Pwede bang may joke pa noon kasi sinasabi ni Mayor Binay yung debate na dapat close notes. Bawal kodigo. Naalala mo yun? Oh my God. So it became sort of a joke already. But yun, nagkawatak-watak kasi Miriam ran for president. Of course, Miriam has her core. Miriam got around 3 million votes. Then you have Jojo Binay, you had Grace Poe, and you had Mar Rojas. So they were the four, the middle class, the chunk of the voters who would be supposedly voting for the decent, dignified candidate for democracy. Doon nahati-hati.
Oo, nahati-hati.
And here comes Rudy Duterte, straight talking, Clint Eastwood, parang Dirty Harry of Davao. And people there were just fucking frustrated with the LRT scam, yung nangyayari, traffic situation in Manila.
Yes.
And of course, Mama Pasano, Yolanda, and the campaign of Duterte took advantage of all of this.
Yeah.
Right?
But it was also brilliant na they did Mindanao and the north and south, diba? Bongbong Marcos in the north and then Mindanao.
Yeah.
Galing.
Galing. Pero I was impressed by Duterte until maybe December of 2015.
Yeah. What happened?
What turned me around was he started cursing the Pope.
Yes. Oh,
diba?
yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a big deal.
PI mo Pope. And then when I heard that, sabi ko, oh well, game over. You're dead to me. Diba?
Yeah. Oh,
then he started making rape jokes. Remember the Irish missionary who was killed? Then ang sinabi pa niya as a joke, and he would say it again. Sana nauna si Mayor, di ba? Sayang, kay Mayor na sana. Ang ganda-ganda ng Mayor, ng Irish missionary, blonde. When those two things I heard, sabi, this guy is dead to me because nothing is gonna happen here. But people were thirsting for change, and the change that they were thirsting for was the wrong kind of change because they were just frustrated. Frustrated lang sila sa traffic, sa LRT, kay Abaya, sa mga Pasano, sa Iran. They were just frustrated. And here comes this guy who seemed like a breath of fresh air. Remember, during Duterte, he would have the Philippine flag here. He would caress the Philippine flag and kiss it. And it was an image that really stuck to the mind. Such a dramatic image that people said, okay, maybe we should try another tack now. Let's steer away from traditional politicians. Let's steer away from a technocrat like Mar or someone like Grace Poe. Let's try it. And I think that was the mindset. Subukan natin.
Subukan natin, yeah.
Subukan natin. Baka malay mo, hindi ba? Malay mo kasi nakikita mo yung Davao. We'd go to Davao and we'd be, wow, I love Davao. Parang first world country, pati yung airport pa lang, pag nandun pala sa Davao. Makita mo yung mga daan. Di ba? It seemed so safe and beautiful, and it is. And that's what people all thought. Did we get there? I'll be honest. Of course, we didn't get there. Look where we are right now. So, what are we saying? How do we conclude all this? We say goodbye to President Aquino by stating that he was a man, an ordinary man, who had no real ambitions, who had no real ambition except for one. He just wanted a better Philippines, right? Wala. Nothing to do with he deliberately said, no one in my family can hold any government position when I'm a president. He did not endorse any of his family members to succeed him. Wala. But that's who he was, and maybe that's his death, his passing signifies. Maybe we should go back to our core values. Di ba? Hindi naman tayo complicated na bayan eh. Gusto lang natin naman maganda yung mapapatunguhan ng mga kabataan, 'di ba? Na magandang tingin sa atin ng mundo, tumatakbo yung ekonomiya, at saka safe tayo paggabi. Yun lang naman eh.
Oo.
Naalagaan tayo ng pamahalaan. So that's what Bishop Bacani said earlier. Bishop Sok said earlier. Our hope is, and maybe that's what the passing of PNoy should remind us, that we go back to decency, dignity, and during the next elections, right? Kung sino man ang boboto natin, sana maging servant of the people talaga.
Oo.
Yung ating mga leaders. Kasi nangyari ngayon parang servants tayo, di ba? But they are our that's why they're called public servants.
Yes.
So here we are.
And I
What do we
think
do now?
tama yan eh. I think that the Filipinos are really looking for a decent leader that will be proud of, that will take us to the next century. It doesn't need to be another Aquino, di ba? Because that's
No.
it needs to be a decent. That's one. And second, I like how the Catholic Church are talking about it also. I mean, that's a really good thing. And we have the youth, and then we have the influencers. I think this is really the time, no, in 2022.
So, yun nga, I was reading the comments. I snuck a peek at the comments, and even sila Chinky, no, and sila Kat Lagman. Kat's dad, Gus Lagman, has always been one of those. He's been heading the NAMFREL since 1986, diba? Talagang ang laki na nakitulong ni Gus Lagman sa atin sa quick count ng NAMFREL. And without being biased or anything, we just have to remember that we're doing all this for the country. So maybe it shouldn't even be a politics of personality next year. Kasi masyado tayong politics of personality. Although granted, right now, we're there. But the function or the purpose, the higher purpose of the death of PNoy at this time is to remind us that we can be good again. That we were there for one bright, shining moment, a camelot of a moment, right? We were there. We slipped, but I don't think we slipped that far, right? It's not a 20-year, we fell into a crevasse for 20 years like we had during the time of Marcos, or 9 years even during the time of Arroyo. It was 6 years. Maybe it's a blip. But if we let it continue, then we could be in a whole lot of trouble, even worse than what we experienced during Marcos and Arroyo. So that's where we are right now. But the time for sitting on the fence, the time for quiet, the time for silence, the time for being uncaring is over. Right? Lahat tayo may boses. Binigyan tayo lahat ng boses ng social media. Use it. Because if you don't use it, if you're going to, alam mo Anton, mas bibigyan ko pang respeto yung mga nangangampanya kay Duterte. Wag lang bastos ha. Wag lang yung para mga trolls na nababasa natin. If you're for Duterte, do it because you believe in what he's doing. You believe in his governance. You believe in his build. But do not do it by insulting people, right? Pillorying the dead, disrespecting people who have served us. Don't do it that way. Let's be fair about this. Let's be decent about this. I would respect you more rather than the people who are quiet, na nag-iintay ng sino mananalo, doon kakampi. Yun ang walang bayag. Yun ang duwag. Yun ang hindi ko talaga rin respeto. So, I have friends who are like that. You know who you are. Puro kayo deadma. Sana nga, may anak din kayo.
But that's changing. I think that will change. So,
Well,
this is a different ball game.
Well, I will monitor it. Pero kung yung tahimik ka pa rin, kung nauutal ka pa hanggang ngayon, over the next few months, then maybe we should reconsider.
Oo.
Ito na eh. Alam mo,
Ito na.
Anton,
Tsaka, the stake is high. We can be a province of China if you don't act now. Or,
Yeah.
we can have another dictatorship. Kasi,
Yeah.
di ba? You want to run again, run and run and run. How would you stop it from not running for the next how many years, di ba?
And sana nga yung mga politician natin, yung mga lalo yung mga congressman, mga governor, mga mayor, let's stop looking at it because you want to be sure of a victory during the next elections. Diba? Siguro lumaban kayo. Parang, look, why is Lenny Robredo vice president? Because once upon a time, Jesse Robredo would always fight the good fight. Diba? Hindi siya tumatakbo. Diba? Kala niya ba mga Villafuerte, the powers that be in Bicol. Hindi siya tumatakbo para lang manalo. Hindi yung pakay niya eh. As a matter of fact, after his first 3 terms in office, si Jesse, tumigil na yan sa politika eh. But he was dragged back. Then after his tragic passing, again, history repeating itself. Now we have a widow, once again, battling a dictatorship.
Sa tingin mo, kaya?
Alam mo, lahat kaya eh. If you put your mind to it. Look, we were having the same conversation in 1985. Sa tingin mo, kaya ba ni Cory Aquino? Putya, si Marcos was there for 21 years. Ano ba naman ng 5 years, 6 years? Lahat kaya. But people have to talk. People have to, when it's possible, you have to go out in the streets. But if it's not yet possible, it's not yet safe to go out in the streets, make your voice heard. Diba? Talk to your politician friends. Sana kausapin niyo sila. Kung kayo yung politiko, kayo mismo magbago. Diba? Kasi parang ano yan eh. Kung saan mukhang mananalo na administration, lahat sila didikit dun eh. Kasi nandun yung pera, nandun yung pork bar eh. Sana hindi ganun yung pag-iisip. But there were politicians who went against the grain, who were jailed for it. Kung kayo makukulong, makulong. Diba? Maybe that's what you should do because a lot of the great Filipinos were thrown in jail. Jose Rizal, di ba? Andres Bonifacio by fellow Filipinos, di ba? So maraming kwento yan. In recent history, Aquilino Pimentel, di ba? Lahat sila nakulong. Yung mga anak ba nila, maganda ba yung pinapakita? Ewan ko. Kayong bahala maghusga. But Coco Pimentel was one of the all-time greats. Jovito Salonga was thrown in jail. All of them. So, I don't know, man. If you're gonna ask me, is it possible? Oh yeah, it's absolutely possible. But people have to speak up. Because at the end of the day, democracy is the voice of the people. If we're just gonna shut up and watch Netflix and hope for the best, that people do the grunt work for us, for the campaign in the elections of 2022, then you just ride along with the crest of the wave after that happens, and hey, shit, that's bullshit.
Pero I think that will really change kasi as I said, the stake is higher. Hindi lang like Duterte or Lenny Robredo, di ba? Merong Nostradamus prediction daw na the Marcos will be coming back, di ba?
No, so, they're back.
In 2022.
They're back.
I mean, as a president in 2022. So
I won't be surprised, yeah.
Di ba? Natuwa ako dun sa merong Nostradamus prediction daw by 2022. So
ayoko mag-predict kasi alam ko na prediction sa basketball, palpak pa.
And you have Manny Pacquiao also, di ba? You have Manny Pacquiao. So let's see.
Let's see. But ako lang, yun lang. If there's anything that a legacy, if we're talking about the legacy of PNoy, yun. Magising sana tayo ulit. Let this be a wake-up call. I don't really care what side of the political spectrum you are. Pero magpakita tayo ng gilas, magpakita tayo ng puso, magpakita tayo ng ating talagang pagmamahal sa bayan. Yan lang naman yun.
Yeah.
Diba? At saka sana we vote for the right reasons. Let's not vote for personality. Let's not vote for privilege. Let's just vote for someone who can lead our country back to where we are. or who we are. More importantly, this is a battle, Anton. This is a battle for the soul of our nation. I'm not kidding. This will
Yeah, it
define
is.
us.
It is. Oh,
Yeah,
this will define us, and this will, because my kids cannot vote.
yeah,
They're under 18, and this will define us. And I think the legacy, as we would just to end our discussion, is a vote for decency
mm,
and Filipino dignity.
yeah.
2022 onwards.
Yes, that's it. That's
That's
all
it.
we can say. But keep fighting, guys. I've never stopped fighting. I've always been there. Sometimes I make the wrong decisions. I voted for Erap. So who the hell knew? But I was also the first one on EDSA for EDSA DOS. Ganun eh. Minsan nagkakamali ka talaga eh, di ba? Pero kung
Oo.
magkakamali ka, tanggapin mo nagkamali ka, so may gagawin ka, kung pwede mong iayos yung pagkakamali, ayusin mo. So lahat ng mga, kung feeling nyo, nagkamali kayo ng 2016, kung sino man binoto nyo, pwede naman ayusin eh. Pero hindi maayos yan sa bayan kung di kayo gagalaw. So dapat gagalaw kayo. Dapat may boses kayo. Dapat magsalita kayo. Dapat gamitin yung influensya nyo. That's where we are.
Yes. That's where we are. And
No.
I'm really hopeful, no? And siguro this will be a continuing discussion until until next year.
Yeah.
Would be
Well, here we are.
interesting to campaign. Here we are in the Manila podcast. And congratulations pala Archbishop of Manila, di ba? Cardinal.
June 24.
Oh,
June
Cardinal.
24. Oh, so may bago tayong cardinal sa Manila, and the church will play a big part. Whether you are a believer, whether you're born again, whether you're Muslim, we're all sharing one faith. That the faith here will be our faith as Filipinos for good governance. Di ba? Let's not be blinded again. Let's stop these partisan fighting. Kung alam lang natin, alam mo, yung moral center na hindi naman nagbabago yung basic morality natin eh. Yun ang pairalin natin. Kung di kayo naniniwala sa Catholic Church, but if you feel that in your heart of hearts that they're saying is right, then follow them.
Yeah.
Use your own conscience. Let it
Use
be a
your own-
conscience vote. It should be a conscience vote.
Good.
So,
And yeah.
so
Galing.
President PNoy, salamat sa inyong serbisyo.
Salamat. Maraming
Salamat
salamat.
sa ginawa mo sa bayan. Salamat sa parangal na dinulot mo sa Pilipinas nung termino mo. We're very grateful, and we really hope that you're passing this impeccable timing of the Aquinos when they go back to their creator will be a blessing to our country.
Yeah, and please pray over us, no, with your parents, that the country will vote a decent and dignified president in 2022.
Yes. Tatakbo akong kongreso. Pag tumakbo ako, maboto mo ako.
Saludo.
Oo.
Saludo.
Takbo ako sa Manila. Panainis na ako.
Alright,
ako
good
ng
evening, guys.
Good
Thank
evening,
you.
guys. Take care. God
Thank you
bless
for
you all.
listening.
Mabuhay ang Pilipinas.
Mabuhay. Mabuhay.